So let's jump right in. We're asking a pretty massive question today. Can we ever build an AI that truly shares our world, that thinks in a way that's anything like how we think? And to answer that, we're not going to look at bigger and bigger computers. Nope. We're going to look inside the most complex and incredible machine we know of, the human brain. Okay, let's get right to the heart of it. We've got these incredible AI models, LLMs, that can write amazing poetry or debug code in seconds. But here's the billion-dollar question that's tearing the field apart. Do they actually understand any of it? Or are they just the world's most sophisticated parrots, just matching patterns on a scale we can barely comprehend? The idea we're digging into today is that maybe, just maybe, the blueprint for real, grounded intelligence isn't something we have to invent from scratch. What if it already exists, humming away inside our own skulls? The key might not be more data, but better biology. So to really get why the brain might be the answer, we have to be super clear about the problems we're facing right now. What are the big, fundamental questions that keep AI researchers staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m.? Let's break these down because they're huge. First, when an AI says something profound, is that meaning actually in the model, or are we the humans just seeing what we want to see? Then there's this. Can these things create something genuinely new, or are they just incredible remix artists, just mashing up everything they've ever been fed? And the big one everyone's betting on. Can we just solve all this by making them bigger, more data, more power, or are we fundamentally missing a piece of the puzzle? All right, let's get into our first big insight from neuroscience. And believe it or not, it didn't start with some complex AI theory. It started with a really simple, everyday puzzle about how our own memory works. Seriously, think about it for a second. When you try to memorize something simple, like a phone number or a shopping list, how does your brain do it? If you had to guess, where in the list do you think you'd make the most mistakes? Logically, you'd think your memory gets worse and worse as you go down the list, right? But that is not what happens at all. We're actually great at remembering the beginning and the end, but we're terrible with the middle. It makes the spout curve. For a neuroscience pioneer named Grossberg, this was a massive breakthrough. It proved our brain isn't just a tape recorder. Learning is this dynamic, messy process where timing and context are everything. And that's a huge lesson for building smarter AI. And here is the absolute key takeaway. Grossberg realized that intelligence isn't about one single neuron firing. It's not like an on-off switch. No, it's about the entire distributed pattern of activity across huge networks of brain cells. The real units of thought are these beautiful, complex, shifting patterns. So, building on that, let's get to our second insight. And this one really shows the massive, fundamental difference between how something like a large language model learns and how, say, a toddler learns about the world. I mean, look at this divide. It's everything. Today's AI is a completely passive learner. It's like a student who's read every single book in the library but has literally never set foot outside the room. Its only motivation is to predict the next word in a sentence. But biological intelligence? It's the complete opposite. It's forged in the fires of action, of trying to do stuff in the real world, driven by real goals like finding food or avoiding danger. This isn't just a different way to learn. It creates a totally different kind of knowledge. And all that active learning builds something absolutely critical, a grounded world model. Think of it like an internal, constantly updating simulation of the world inside your head. And it's grounded because it's tied to real experience, to having a body, a self, and facing real consequences. An AI trained on text can describe gravity perfectly, but, a toddler that has fallen down a bunch of times understands gravity. That's the difference. Okay, this is where it gets really, really interesting. It turns out that when we model the brain with even more biological detail, we can start to unlock answers to problems that seem almost impossible to solve. It's not just about the big picture, it's about the nitty-gritty details. So for a long time, brain models kind of took a shortcut. They used something called a rate-based model, which just looked at the average activity of neurons. It's like listening to the general roar of a crowd. But then, researchers built spiking models, which are way more detailed. They're like listening to every single individual voice in that crowd. And here's the crazy part. Adding all that detail didn't just make things more complicated. It actually gave the models new superpowers to explain brain stuff we could never figure out before. And get this, for a mind-bending example, how does a memory you made as a little kid stay perfectly stable, even as your brain physically grows and rewires itself for years? Well, the answer might be in those little neuron spikes.
The signals they send seem to keep their exact timing and pattern no matter how much farther they have to travel in a growing brain. It's like a message that arrives perfectly intact, whether you send it across a tiny room or across an entire continent. That kind of stability is just crucial for lifelong learning.
So, when you take all these incredible insights from the brain, that it's all about patterns, it's about active learning, it's about the nitty-gritty physics, you realize we're standing at a major crossroads. We can now see three very, very different paths for where AI goes next.
So, route number one is pretty much the path we're on right now. Just scale what's already working. The big bet here is that if we just keep feeding our current AI models more and more data and throw more and more computing power at them, they'll eventually, somehow, break through their current limits and achieve a real deep understanding. Route number two is a whole different ballgame. Go interactive. This is about building truly autonomous agents, robots, digital scientists that learn by doing. They would form their own hypotheses, run their own experiments in the real world, and generate their own data from their own experiences. I mean, they could discover things we humans never even thought to look for.
And then there's a third path, which is kind of a middle way. Instead of AI learning from our old data, or learning completely without us, what if it could learn with us? This whole approach is based on the idea that we humans build our understanding of the world together, socially. So for an AI to be a real partner, maybe it needs to learn the same way, in a constant collaborative loop with people. And that really brings us to the final and most profound question of all. The path we choose here isn't just a technical decision, it's a philosophical one. Do we want an AI that's just a perfect reflection of our past? An AI that goes off and explores a future without us? Or an AI that learns how to share our world, right here, right alongside us? The choice is ours.